A few years ago, you may remember, had a very celebrated tragic case, actually, where 3 college students were murdered by someone who was in the country illegally, who was out on bail. An individual had been arrested, was out on bail. The individual was arrested on crimes against children, very serious stuff. He was out on bail. And basically what happened in Newark, though, the Newark Police Department was discouraged, or in some of these cities are actually forbidden from enforcing immigration law. And if you talk to local law enforcement around here, if an officer has reason to believe you may be in the country illegally, they will check immigration status. When you talk to Allentown Police or Bethlehem or Easton, they will do that. They will do that oftentimes. And so it's not something that is considered extreme or radical to check the immigration status of somebody who was arrested, particularly for a felony. And so, so this is a very real issue, and it's become such an issue. I did some investigation this a couple of years ago and introduced legislation to respond to it because much of our very substantial state and federal prison population composed of what we would call criminal aliens. And when we're doing the numbers, the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, we crunched some of the numbers suggesting that, I believe it was the federal system at that time, that's somewhere around, there's a very large number of the criminal alien population where most of them were arrested multiple times, at least 8 times. I think about 25% of them have been arrested at least 13 times. These are people who are in the country, well, many illegally. Some are here legally, but they're here legally, but they're not citizens. So we have a very large prison population, both at the state and federal levels, that's composed of people who are what we call criminal aliens. And so that's something that I was concerned about. It's so bad that, in fact, people said, "Why don't you do something about it?" I said, "Well, we're trying." In fact, we have about 150,000 people in this country currently who are in detention. That is, they've been through due process. They have valid removal orders against them. Time to go home. In other words, they've already been adjudicated totally. The problem is they come from 8 countries, and those countries will not take them back, or they will not repatriate their own citizens. China, India, Laos, Vietnam, Eritrea, Somalia, Jamaica, Vietnam, and Iran. I think that's all. It's a fact. So I introduced legislation to try to require that those countries repatriate their citizens, just as we do. When our citizens get in trouble overseas, we take them back and we repatriate them. To repatriate, if they don't, and either you hold up foreign aid if that country were to be receiving aid, you would hold up the aid, or you would hold up visas for those who are trying to come into this country until they take them back. So that's one suggestion or solution I've been working on. So that's another issue. On the economy and jobs, I guess we'll get to that, but we'll get to the economy and jobs and maybe a little more spend a few more questions on touching that.
You're not catching up on the people who employ these people. And I think that's illegal. They should not be able to employ them. They should know that they are not employable and not employ them. And one of the reasons that we have so much trouble is because they are in large numbers employed.
Fair point. I think you heard the comment. It's a fair one. The way to essentially try to stem the flow of illegal immigration into this country, I think we should all be clear. I think all of us support lawful, legal immigration, people coming through the front door, going through an orderly process of entrance and exit. I just want to be clear. You know, we have about 12 million people in this country illegally. They're here illegally. But it's important to note that we estimate somewhere at least 3.5 million of them entered this country legally, and they are now here illegally. That is, we have a problem with exit. They come in with a visa in hand, they overstay, we call them visa overstays, and they don't go home. Now, the issue of employment verification. The 1986 law was passed called Simpson-Mazzola. Ronald Reagan was president, Democratic Congress, and they passed a law that basically said 3 things on immigration. They're going to force the border, create a workforce, our worksite enforcement system, and grant amnesty to 3 million people. Well, they granted the amnesty and really never got around to doing the other 2 things, I promised. Well, we're not going to make, at least I'm not going to support that kind of policy. We're not going to make that mistake again. So on the work site,